So, my turn again. Well, as you know, I continue my Tales of Marathon this year as well, from the past 2 years.
Of course you did.
And I think I have played most of the games. The only games that I haven't played through is like Destiny 2, actual Destiny 2. I haven't beaten Hearts R yet, and Tempest.
I mean, Destiny 2 still hasn't been translated yet.
Yeah, Destiny 2 hasn't been translated yet. Still, we're still waiting. First Tales of game I will probably talk about is Tales of Destiny DC, which is a remake of the original Tales of Destiny that was originally released on PS1, but then it got remade into the PS2 version, which came out, I think, after Symphonia, around that time frame at least. Have you guys played Tales of Destiny DC at all, ever since it got the Life Bottle translation?
I played it a little bit just to like, I just dabbled with it, but I didn't really get very far in it.
Okay. How about you, Sword?
No, I haven't had a chance to check it out yet.
Okay. I would probably say that gameplay-wise, Tales of Destiny DC is probably one of the best Tales games I played.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the sprite work in this game is really done really well. To the point where if they just did like straight port with just HD resolutions, that would be enough. Because I think the sprite work seen in this game holds up to any of the HD 2D titles, at least to me personally. I've shown you clips of the game before, right?
Yeah, I've seen the clips you've shown.
Yeah, I think the sprite work done in that game is done really well. Like the only parts of the game that doesn't look good is the overworld map, and that's because instead of being sprite work, it's like a 3D rendition of the world and the characters, which does look very, very off. And I think they did it like that because Tales of Rebirth was done that way, but you know, it does make the overworld to feel not as well polished as the rest of the game that's in this immaculate 2D sprite work you see. Tales of Destiny DC probably has the most playable characters in the Tales games. You know how many characters there are? 10.
I think the only
10 for a Tales game that's a lot.
Yeah, 10. Just Ston.
I think the only thing that comes close to that is Symphonia, because I remember that had like.
Yeah, but I think that's like 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's like the closest thing I feel like.
That's 8, technically 9, because Kratos and Zelos are interchangeable. And depending on one of your choices, you can either get Zelos or Kratos at the end. Destiny DC has 10 characters. Ston, Rudy, Leon, Philia, Woodrose, Mary, Chelsea, Kongman, Lilith, and Johnny. Those are the 10 characters you can play as. But I would also say that most of those characters don't have that much development. And you know why they don't have that much development?
That explains that.
You know why they don't have that much development?
Why?
A good amount of those characters were optional characters back in the PS1 version.
Okay.
Like Chelsea, optional character. Johnny, I think is optional as well. Kongman, optional. Lilith, you couldn't even actually technically play Lilith unless you use Game Shark.
Oh, jeez.
Interesting.
Now, like, I do think each of these characters do nail the personality well enough that they're still fun and distinct characters to enjoy reading through, especially in the skits. But it does feel like they don't get that much development because like they were optional characters back to PS1. They get like drafted to the main plot, but they don't change the main plot too much. So like the main characters are Ston, Rudy, Leon, Philia, and Woodrose, and Mary, who has a subplot regarding her amnesia. Out of those characters, I would say Woodrose is probably the most boring of the main cast of characters, Is he simply the adult character who looks after the rest? There's nothing too bad with him, nothing too interesting done with him, but you know. His plotline revolves around him trying to be the ideal king that he thinks his father is. Throughout the game, you realize that his father might not have been like as good of a king that everybody around him hyped him up to be, and then him have to come to terms with that and trying to lead his kingdom in his own way. Typical stuff, but nothing too much. Stan, Rudy, Leon, and Philia is probably the characters with more development in the game. Especially Leon, especially in this version of the game, where you get like a Leon side to play through. Because like, when you start the game, you can either start a Stan side or a Leon side, like how they did with Jude and Mila. The difference is that Leon, it literally tells you, do not do this route until you play the Stan playthrough. Because Leon is basically just basically extra stuff you learn all along the main game.
That's good they warn you at least and tell you ahead of time.
Like the Jude and Mila thing, like the problem with Jude and Mila is like Mila does feel like a playthrough where you do have to play through Jude's playthrough first in order to get the most out of it.
Yeah, you get way more out of Mila's side if you play Jude first. I've done both campaigns for the PS3 version years ago, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I did the Jude campaign back in the day, and I'm currently doing the Mila one. And so far, it's mostly the same, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's more in the later parts of the game, especially the third act, where things, when it like really diverges, and you'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember there was a part where they spent like a pretty considerable amount of time apart. So I'm sure like that stuff will make it more obvious. But even still, like, I want to say like 90% of Zilius seems like it's still like the same game either way.
Yeah, the dual protagonist thing was a little hokey in execution. I feel like it kind of like wasn't even really like necessary. Honestly,
I agree. Like, I genuinely feel like they could have had one campaign and they could have just shifted perspectives.
Yeah, I honestly think that would have been a better way to go about it, because there's not enough replay value to like justify a whole second run to me.
Yeah.
I feel like Leon's done, like, a lot of work was done to make Leon interesting. Like, when you're going through Stan's route, he does come off as kind of like a cold and prickly asshole. And somewhat edgy, because especially when he says like, I do not like over-friendly people. Over-friendly people like you, Stan, piss me off. But then when he goes through who's route, you understand like him being the son of a significant political figure. He's all constantly surrounded by sycophants who just wants to be friendly, just to curry favor with his father. So he's constantly surrounded by people who are basically two-faced. So Stan's personality just rubs him off the wrong way just through those interactions before. And it's only through Stan actually being a genuinely nice guy and actually helping Leon to the point where Stan actually takes a blow for Leon that actually petrifies Stan. And also through him talking to one important NPC afterwards, does he realize relying on people's help can be a type of strength. And I think his route does a good job of humanizing him a lot. And I think Stan and Rudy and Philia got some really good development too. But overall, I would say like writing-wise, Heroes Death SGC is probably not the best game in terms of character writing. Like, it does well enough, but like it's no Berseria or Abyss in that regards, you know?
I mean, those are super high standards.
Yeah, that the bar is really high.
Yeah.
If you're gonna compare those.
I mean, like, compared to Symphonia, is like very middling. But what I think helps SGC a lot is in the gameplay, I think. This rendition of the linear motion battle system called, what was it called again? Aerial something. The Aerial Linear Motion Battle System. Oh, just Aerial. Okay. This is the game where Well, I wouldn't say like CC originated in Destiny 2, and then Destiny DC basically worked on the CC system from there. But I think this is probably one of the really cool battle systems done with CC. You played it a bit, right, Daniel? Back then, seeing the max.
I played a decent amount of the PS1 version of Destiny, but unfortunately my save data got corrupted. So after that happened, I didn't feel very motivated to restart. And like I said, for the PS2 version, I only played a little bit.
I would say like aerial combat is a definite factor in the combat. Like every character got like a double jump to it, and every character got an art where they interact with the air. There's a lot of interesting combos you can do with air with various characters, and just like aerial attacks in general. And outside of just attacks, aerial movement via timing your double jumps, dashes, and using moves that allow you to stay in the air more is key to effectively controlling space and avoiding damage, and is one of the key factors to how you dominate battles in this rendition of the LMBS. So as you can see, aerial maneuverability is a key theme in this game's combat system, and a really fun one at that. But I think like with Destiny DC, I think what stands out the most is like a lot of the characters feel very viable and a lot of fun to play as. Like I don't think there's one character that is just a dud in Teo's Destiny DC. Dawn is really fun to play as. Leon is especially fun to play as, especially as an aerial fighter. Mary has a very bruiser type and offensive type of playstyle with her axe. Rudy, I think what's really interesting about Rudy and Philia is that they have roles that you wouldn't expect them to have. Do you know what role Rudy has within the party? Sword?
Wait, say it one more time?
What do you think she plays like? Just from her character design.
Rudy, she's the one with the knife, right?
Yeah, the Rudy, the one with the knife. She's your healer.
Really? That's talk about subverting.
And Philia, who has this really meek demeanor and very delicate and priestly design to her. She's your black mage.
Huh. They're just like assigning random like archetypes to these characters that you wouldn't think they would fall under.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I do think the character does subvert certain archetypes that way, in terms of having a character that doesn't play as what you expect. I think Rudy being a healer also really does play into her character, in terms of being this character who in outward appearance does feel very selfish, with her always trying to make as much gold as possible. But then you realize the reason why she's making gold, the reason why she is cutthroat about gold as she is, because she's trying to raise an orphanage, and she's trying to put funds so that the kids around them can live a good life. So when you take that into account, you realize that her being a healer actually makes a lot of sense. So I do think like when it comes to character archetypes and subverting it, I think Destiny DC does a rather unique job at that. What gets me in terms of having a distinct playstyle is that you have two archers in the game, which are Woodrow and Chelsea, but they play totally different. With Woodrow being a much more mid-range character, with him having arrow attack, but he uses his swordian attacks, his sword to attack enemies as well. Gets him to a playstyle where he's thrusting a lot as well as teleporting a lot. While Chelsea is a much more long-range bow character you expect, with her having a lot of homing attacks and long-range attacks to fight enemies with. Which really makes using Woodrow's and Chelsea to be a very different experience, despite them both being the bow characters. And you got Kongman, which is an interesting character to play as. Very interesting. You know he has a res? it only get your character to 1 HP if he does it, and it takes a really long time, but he has a res. Yeah, he feels like the most joke character-ish of the bunch, I think. And then with Lilith, it's really hard to kind of describe her character in terms of playstyle, I think. Because, like, she has a lot of the different type of attacks she can do with her ladle, and she does seem kind of like a joke character, but I do think it all rounds up to her being a really solid mid-range to close-range fighter. But like overall, like I do think every character in Tales of Destiny C is a lot of fun to play as, with the CC system being a very engaging system to play through, with you constantly figuring out which is the best type of arts to use at this specific time. Especially with the max and min CC system, with you constantly trying to juggle between what sort of actions you should do when I'm at this CC level, or the next CC level, or should I use guard aura in order to change the CC level to the next? Because after every action you do, your mid and max CC changes. And the game also has a good emphasis on stuns. So you're always trying to get a stun in order to extend your combo, since the stun gives you more CC to play with. And I think this is the game that makes spellcasting a lot of fun, because this is the game where you see character spellcast time lowering if they are able to cast a spell after a certain action, which makes it really a lot of fun to play through, especially if you're able to stun the enemy a lot with her spells, which means you can cast a lot more spells in faster succession. Like,
It's fun.
yeah, it is overall really fun. And it being a 2D Tales of Combat, you still have to contend with spacing, because like I feel like the 2D Tales game has a lot more emphasis on tight spacing compared to the 3D ones, especially with it being 2D and all, and how you don't have that much space to contend with on a 2D plane compared to a 3D arena.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with the 2D games as you are, though.
Yeah. And I feel like Tales of Destiny DC seems like the most developed and fun 2D combat system of the Tales of games. And it probably might just be my favorite combat system, 2D combat system of all the RPGs I played. I think the progression system is also fantastic. In terms of developing your characters, along with a leveling up system, you got two systems for two types of characters to get into the game. The first is the Swordian characters, which are Ston, Rudy, Woodrose, Philia. They have this like interesting skill system within the Swordians, which allows you to choose which type of skills you want to put on your sword. CC +2 or heavy strike or stuff like that. Why the non-Swordian characters got a totally new equipment system to contend with, since they can actually equip new weapons, unlike the Swordians. With you having not only standard weapons, but also a weapon progression system, with you being able to make weapons into a stronger version of another weapon using it. And there's like various branching paths you can take for each weapon type, which with you always having to decide, do I want this weapon that gives me more CC, or do I want this weapon that gives me a specific number of CC, which makes it more consistent, but with no min or max. This weapon, where it has much more attack, but with low CC. Like overall, I think like the gameplay of Tales of Destiny is really good.
But how is it like as a whole package, right? Like story, character.
I would say this is a top tier Tales game. The story might be a little weak, and then there is one part of the game where you are like, I think the worst part of the game might be near the ending parts, where you're forced to basically do 6 or 7 dungeons in a row, which is the Ether Aerial Palaces. which can feel very draining sometimes. But besides that, I think this is a fantastic game with a really good post game. Because like, have you done much post game the Tales of games?
Nah, usually when I finish a Tales game, I'm done.
Okay, like the post game is really interesting in Tales of Destiny DC because you have a set of dungeons you have to go through, but there are a number of times you can use each character. So in order to progress through through it, you have to decide, oh, I'm bringing this character and this character to this floor, and then this character to this floor. And then you have to plan out which character would be the best on tackling each floor so that you can have a good set of people when you're going towards the end. And what makes the dungeon even more interesting is that it starts you off with 0 items. And then you have to procure your items through the treasure chest, with each treasure chest being randomly generated to generate the item, as well as the benefits or cost they have. Because some treasure chests will aid you, some treasure chests will deplete your food supply, or some treasure chests will deplete your health. So it has these roguelike elements that does make it very engaging to go through each run. And then at the end, you fight probably one of the best post-game bosses, which is Mr. Barbados himself. Or Mr. No Items Ever, which is a really intense boss fight. And I think people should do the post-game Destiny DC. It's like, I think it is a really interesting post-game, but I think like all the Tales game, it does feel like you want to do the post-game because like there's some arts you can only learn when you're level 100. Like unlike in other Tales game where it gets capped out like near the end game. Like Johnny has this really strong move which allows him to combo continuously. I think I showed it to you and Sword before, where the combo would just go towards like 999. You can able to do it well. You know what's the funny thing about fighting Barbados? If you play it on simple difficulty, he just kills you.
What?
He just kills you. You literally cannot fight him on simple difficulty.
Is that like the easiest setting?
Yeah, that is the easiest setting. If you try to fight him on simple, he will just murder you with cheap eliminate.
That is so weird.
It is so funny. And you know, like if you auto grind, if you just put everyone in auto and just circle around in the overworld map, just grinding like that, if you do it for too long, like 20 minutes, Barbados will appear and just kick your butt in the world map.
What?
Yeah. Like if you're just grinding normally, with you actually playing, it won't happen. But if you just put everybody on auto, Barbados will just appear. If you do it like that,
Just ruin your day.
yes,
All that grinding for nothing.
just 20 minutes of grinding, but you know, it's so funny. It's just so funny.
That's funny. It's also fucked.
I mean, like
why give people the option if you're gonna punish them for it though?
Overall,
That is like a baffling design. I've never heard that in any game in my life. Like actually, that's the first time I'm hearing about something like that.
I mean, it's pretty funny though. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
I know it would never happen to me.
Yeah.
It would never happen to me. I don't, because I actually enjoy the combat of Tales games, so I would never do that. But like, that's still really funny.
Yeah. But overall, like, I think Tales of Destiny DC overall is a really cool game. Probably the best 2D combat system of the series. It has a really interesting progression system in regards to how the swordian device works, as well as how the weaponry system works, with you being able to make different type of weapons depending on how you build them. It has a pretty interesting accessory system as well, being able to equip various accessories in order to different effects. And going through Arise, it actually made me realize just how less interesting that game's equipment system is compared to the other Tales games, especially in the accessory option. Because like almost every Tales game got some really nifty, interesting accessory system you can play around with. Now that I play through all the games, I don't really see in most other action games, which really does make the equip option in the menu actually relevant. Did you know how every time you go to the menu, the screen in battle, there's always an option to equip different equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like that sort of system is mostly done for use for accessories in the Tales game, because like there are some really interesting accessories you can equip during battle, which can change how you progress. And this is the same for Destiny DC. And oh yeah, Destiny DC also has the discovery system in here, which you see in
Graces F.
Yeah.
Cool.
There are some discovery points that moves in Destiny DC, with those discovery points being like a whale or like a crab or something. And when you're trying to get 100%, it can get annoying trying to find it, but you know. It has a really, really good post game in terms of the Arcadia Labyrinth, and the story and characters are the strongest of the Tales games, but I think they do well enough that you can still get invested within the story of Tale of Destiny DC. Like the actual negative points is that there is a point in the game where you do have to go through a like gauntlet of dungeons near the end. And I will say that Destiny DC can be unforgiving sometimes in regards to the difficulty, especially the final boss. The final boss in Tales of Destiny DC is probably one of the hardest final bosses I've experienced in a Tales of game. Big Tran does not.
Oh, so it must be your favorite then.
I mean, the Tales of Destiny DC is one of my favorite games, but like Mitran doesn't screw around. So like Tales of Destiny DC was like one of the first Tales of game that I played in beaten this year, and I am glad that I played it, especially since I saw a lot of people hyping it up throughout the years, and I can see why. It is a lot of fun to play through, especially with this game's rendition of the aerial and motion battle system. Like there is a lot of interesting aerial interactions in the game, as well as having to contend with the CC system and the stun system. Oh yeah, you can also do multiple mystic arts in the game, which is interesting. And you can also Naraki doll in this game as well, which allows you to play as other characters. Like you can get Ston, and if you equip a Lilith or Naraki doll on him, he'll basically just turn into Lilith, which does make it an interesting option to do in New Game Plus if you just want to play this specific character, but you can't because they're not in the story yet. So you could just equip a Naraki doll to a character, and then they'll just become that character. And this game has some really interesting New Game Plus options, because like there's a solo mode option, and there's an option where it like changes the solo mode. Yeah.
Just play through the whole game with one character?
Yeah, with there being some benefits to that one character, but just solo mode. There's another option where it messes with the physics of the battle system, which does make probably a much more different experience. And this is also very significant since aerial combat is a definite highlight of the combat system. But like there's a lot of different nifty New Game Plus options in here. And like overall, Tales of Destiny DC is probably the strongest game in the series in regards to overall gameplay, I think.
Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I need to get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll probably have to wrap up the Zillia remaster replay first, but
Yeah.
when I'm that will probably be like my next Tales game.
Hmm.
Either it or Rebirth, depending
Yeah.
on how I feel.
Hmm.